Welcome back.
I know, right? I
Yeah.
I know that we're early on in recording our conversations, but welcome to our offices and our homes. Today's topic is boundaries. Remember, this is where we jump right in. We're going to talk 90 miles an hour. We're going to get you in, get you out, and on with your day. So, wherever you're watching from, please like, comment, subscribe. We'd love to know what you think about our comments and our, I guess, personal stories of the topic of the day, which is boundaries.
All right, Nicole, boundaries.
Boundaries. All right, let's start with quotes. I got this one right here. You are not period. I love that one. And then I asked some people, I asked on Instagram, what is the best boundary information? One person submitted this one and I liked it. And it says, other people's urgency is not my emergency.
Right? Yeah, I think we
Yes.
all felt that at some point, right?
Right? Yeah. When somebody contacts you and they're freaking out, da, 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 you start to freak out with them. But it's like, no, set that boundary. Okay. Um, I can help you tomorrow afternoon. Is that still going to work for you, or do you need somebody else to help you? That kind of stuff. Those are hard boundaries to set, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, boundaries are so much more than just the ones that we need in relationships, and for our personal self-care, right? It's everybody else loading your plate up, not because you can, but just because you say yes.
Right.
And you're gonna
And
hear, yeah, I mean, you're gonna hear, that's totally normal from day
well,
zero.
especially when we're in the service industry, we're in the industry of helping people. And so when somebody has an emergency, they go to those that they can count on for help and try to make it their emergency too. And so as long as you can, talk them off the ledge a little bit and then set that boundary that I still want to help you, but I can't until this time. Um, and that's just something you got to stick with. Maybe
Yeah,
you
right
lose
on.
them
Yeah, right
as
on.
somebody, but maybe it's not meant to be anyway then. If they respect you, and that's another one I had, where did it go? The only people that get upset with you setting boundaries are the ones that benefited from you not having any. I'm going to repeat this for those in the back. The only people that get upset with you setting boundaries are the ones that benefited from you not having any. So the same thing that goes with the emergency people.
Yeah.
If they get upset with you setting a boundary, then there's an issue with that
Yeah,
relationship.
I think those are great quotes and they're totally real. And then you have levels of your boundaries of who gets that. Like who can call you
Access.
with their hair on fire, right?
Right.
There are some people in my life
Yes. Yes.
and
And
that's
it's a
okay.
usually it's a mutual thing. Like
Mm.
if you have
Woo!
your hair on fire, you guarantee that I'm there for you. I have my hair on fire, I know you're there for me.
Yeah.
So we have extinguishers that will put each other's hair out. But, you know, that's a long term, we've built this up kind of relationship.
Yeah, totally trust. Okay. Any more quotes?
I have one more. Yep.
Okay,
And
good.
this one I took from somewhere else, but I kind of um, shifted it a little bit and made it my own. But surround yourself with people that pour into your cup, not just drink from it, poke holes in it, but put poison in it.
Ugh,
Mm, there you go.
boundaries.
I'm quoted out now.
Okay, you're quoted, you're out quoted.
I hit my
Um,
quota of quotes.
so mine go like this. It's not the load that breaks you down, it's the way you carry it.
Yes.
Because if you don't have boundaries in place, that whole load is going to be so heavy. And so if you're not piecemealing it into where it needs to go and compartmentalizing it,
Yeah.
the person that's coming to you saying, "Can you help me put my hair out?" You're going to say yes, and then that's on top of something else, on top of something else, on top of something else. And so
And
if you
then,
haven't,
oh, go
what?
ahead. Sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
so
I was
it's
just
like
going
if
to
you haven't
say,
taken an inventory on that, you need to stop this recording right now and you need to do that.
I was just going to add that, you know, you've loaded yourself up so much like a pack mule, hauling all these issues around. And then who do you take out? Who's the one that breaks your back? Someone closest to you, because you didn't protect your boundaries with everything else. And so you take it out on the easy peasy victims that cross your path. And that's just not how it should be. And so if you had better boundaries in the first place, that wouldn't happen. Because anger is definitely an issue of a lack of boundaries.
Oh, that's so interesting because my next quote says, be strong enough to control your anger instead of letting it control you. Because I think that that's a self boundary, but then that's also, you know, you have to manage the expectation of someone else who may have or obviously did cause a feeling of anger. So yeah, totally.
And we don't come prepared, like we know what our topic is, but we don't share our quotes with each other ahead of time or our books or anything like that. So it's kind of fun, and it's kind of fun to find ourselves feeding into each other's little information gathered.
Okay. Tell me about your books. What are you reading? What did you find? Is there a portion of a book that you loved?
Well, the only book I could think of, and I know there's got to be others because I know I've read energy books on protecting your energy and that kind of stuff. But the only one I came up with was Untamed by Glennon Doyle. And I know she talks a lot about boundaries in there. And it's not just about boundaries, but that was the only book I came up with.
I'm a big fan of Brene Brown. You can pretty much find any of her titles. The Power of Vulnerability, which is like, that's a boundary, right? So that whole title is The Power of Vulnerability, Teachings on Authenticity, Connection, and Courage. Codependent No More. That goes into the relationship side of boundaries. How to Stop Controlling Others and Start Caring for Yourself. That's Melody Beattie. Probably saying that right, wrong. And then someone that I'm going to be quoting for the rest of this session, and then anytime else that someone asks me about boundaries, is by Lysa TerKeurst. Lysa spelled Lysa. She wrote Good Boundaries and Goodbyes. And this lady just, again, I said it last time, like, just such new perspective about what is out of bounds. And sure, I've had to set some work-life boundaries. I've had to set some financial boundaries. But she was just like, hey, just because your heart doesn't listen to your gut and then your mouth like spews stuff out, that's because you didn't have boundaries in place, right? And I was just like, duh, of course. And then another thing that she said is avoid the extremes. Like, if you can just keep it in the middle on all of those levels, and again, boundaries, it seems to always come back to relationships, but it's also self-care. You know, you're not being selfish by telling, you know, we started off this video with someone, the hair on fire moment. You're not being selfish by saying, listen, I can't help you today, I can help you tomorrow. Is that still okay? And so Lysa is really fun to listen to. So she's got a lot of videos on YouTube, and of course that book. One last thing though, I really think in my life, it's been about communication, boundaries, specifically with myself or with other people. It's been about communication and managing expectations. And that is a skill.
Absolutely.
But you have to have reflected on it or meditated on it or whatever it is. And you have to know where those out of bounds are.
It's funny you keep saying that because it's so easy to know what physical boundaries are. Like, our home is a physical boundary. It protects us from that hail and snow and whatever else. Okay.
Yeah.
When you're playing basketball, you have out of bounds lines. So you know where you can't dribble. You know, but when it comes to relationships or business or protecting your time, protecting your energy, protecting your family, protecting those kind of things, those boundaries aren't quite as clear. And one thing I came up with, kind of an analogy, is, you know how you can look at your phone when the battery's going dead and it shows you what apps are draining your battery?
Oh, wow. Of
Have you ever
course.
seen that? Yeah, I
Yes.
can go in there and I can see, oh, I was on Facebook for this much time and that drained my battery. We need to have that kind of internal compass, that kind of internal app that tells us that, okay, I spent some time with this person. They drained my battery so fast. It doesn't even matter how high my battery was before that meeting, they drained it. For these people, man, I felt like I was plugged in. I felt like I was plugged in and charging the whole time. And so we need to have that kind of that internal measuring stick of who's draining our battery, who's plugging our battery in,
I
and
love
kind of
that.
just like the phone does.
I love that. Because you can't, you can go one step further and say bankruptcy. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna get to zero if you don't put something in place like a boundary.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, how awesome. Can you give me an example of a boundary that maybe you set in your career? And how
Yeah.
and maybe how you came to that?
That was one of my, I have it on my list too, and was going to ask what was one of the hardest boundaries you ever set. And this comes to me, one of the hardest boundaries I ever set was not working 80 hours anymore, that I had to cut an 80-hour week. I had to cut. And I said in 2017, I would not work over 60 hours a week again.
Okay.
And I think I've only had 2 weeks where I've put in more than 60-hour weeks since 2017. So that's almost 6 years ago that I set that boundary in my life. And I've done a pretty good job at that.
And then, so did you just become really good at delegating?
I just got really good at saying no and realizing
Oh.
that no is a complete sentence. I do not owe anyone an explanation. I do not owe anyone when they say, can you do this? And I say no, that's all I
Mhm,
have to say.
mhm,
No.
mhm.
And you can give a reason and never give an excuse because you could say, no, I can't because I have this going on. Well, then they'll throw back. Well, then let's do
Yeah,
it the next week.
yeah.
Let's do it the next week. If your
No is a
answer is
complete sentence.
no, it's just no. Otherwise, that gives them an in to try to get you to say yes. And so that's what I got better at was no. It doesn't fit into my family. It doesn't fit into my income. It doesn't fit into my values and goals. No.
Wow. Okay. Yep. I have nothing further to add to that.
Boundaries.
What's my hardest boundary? I think I've gotten really good at understanding that some people's problems are just their problems.
Mhm.
I'm a fixer.
That's where I was going to is that I'm a fixer too. In fact, I used to be like I bragged on it. I wanted to be like Kerry Washington in that one show. I can't remember what it's called, but the
I
fixer,
think it
you
was
know.
the fixer.
and and now it's just like
Yeah.
not my circus, not my monkeys. I don't need to fix this. And I even had to make that rule with my kids.
Okay.
I
Tell me
don't
more
have to
about that.
fix everything for them,
Uh,
except Scout, who's not old enough yet to fix things on her own. But next week she will be, and so she's
yeah,
on her own then. No,
she's on her own.
but um, natural consequences. I wasn't very good at that. Always help make sure that if they didn't take their homework to school, I would bring it. I'd be there in an hour, or
Uh,
on the way to school, Nathan would tell me he needed something, and I would go and I would get it. And that is a boundary that I set too late, I think, with them. And so, I mean, not that they totally rely on me for everything, but it's something that I had to stop fixing everything. And that comes, you learn that a lot in coaching too. I'm
mm,
not fixing anybody.
yeah.
I'm allowing them to make choices in their life, giving them options, that kind of stuff, letting them fix their own lives.
Yep. And something that I picked up from Lisa, and she just said it very candidly, and it, kind of set me back was, you do have levels of boundaries, but it doesn't matter if you have a level 10 boundary, that does not fix someone else's problem. Whether it's time or understanding time, which, I had some friends really set those boundaries with me because it wasn't that I was being selfish or they were being selfish. It was just that was a value to them, and I got some closed doors on that. So me correcting myself to the boundary, because that's the other side of the coin, right? Other people have boundaries
Mhm.
and you have to manage the way that you accept their boundary. So you can set them all day, but it's a two-way street, right?
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. And so access, back to Lisa, she just said, all access means all responsibility. And so you're right. If your hair was on fire, like, call me. But that means that the responsibility is there too.
Mhm.
Boundaries. If
Boundaries.
you have any questions about boundaries, or if you have a book or a quote that you like or have found helpful for you, please drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear about it. We'd love to read it. Nicole, obviously, she probably has some room on her bookshelf.
I do always want to learn more. So if you have a good book recommendation, I would love that. And I actually have a worksheet and a little thing on helping you make a boundary action plan that we will link into that too, for people
Okay,
to
grab
check
that.
out.
Yeah, grab that. Get some resources, and boundaries are okay. And maybe it's time to just check on them, right? We got horses. There's boundaries for a reason, mostly because safety, for themselves and against others.
Yeah.
Like,
And if you didn't have fences, your horses would become somebody else's horses.
I know, that would make
Whatever.
me sad.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything left?
Yeah. Oh, well, ambition is a thing that can get in the way of boundaries.
Okay. Whoa.
Got that one. Yeah.
Is that like kind of on the same track as perfection then?
Well, it can be, but ambition. So if you have these goals,
Okay.
for example, for me, my ambition gets in the way of me setting work boundaries on my personal life and not working too much because I want to accomplish certain things in my business. So my ambition gets in the way of my boundaries because I'm like, I'm just going to work 3 more extra hours today so that I can have this off tomorrow, or I just, 3 more and then I'm going to get this done. And so it's always just going to be 3 more. It's always going to be, just give me a little more time because my ambition gets in the way of that boundary.
Huh.
Blurs the line, my boundary line.
All right. Blurred lines. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that's a song. All right, go listen to that
Mr.
too.
Thick. Yeah, there you go.
All right. On your
Okay.
marks. Get
Get
set.
set. Goodbye.
Go have a great day.
Go get boundaries.
Set some boundaries.